This is the normal mode 25-man Elegon guide. Before we get into the fight, have a look how it's going. Just two things to bear in mind here that apply throughout the fight really. The inner ring, where the boss is located, whenever you're standing in there you get two buffs. One of them increases your damage done and healing received by 50%, so it's important to have that as much as possible throughout the fight. The downside is while you're in there you also get a stacking debuff, which with each stack gives you 5% damage received. The way to reset these stacks is simply to step out of the inner ring. So for ranged, not too bad. If you're sort of mostly trying to stand sort of on the edge, you can just step back in again. For melee, you're going to have to get out again. Usually we say get out after about 10 stacks, or don't go beyond 10 stacks, otherwise you'll be taking too much damage, especially when mobs die. They sort of give off a bit of an explosion which can cause a lot of damage. Okay, so let's see what the fight looks like then. Okay, so here you can see people get ready for the fight. A couple of people you can see stepping in. When you're in the inner ring, you sort of go into a celestial mode. Whether you like that or not's another matter. Okay, don't charge him before the boss. The boss does or before the tank rather, the boss does a sort of frontal breath. You don't want to be getting caught by that. Some of you may notice, Paladin, or what you're doing, activating George, my Guardian of Ancient Kings, at the same time as all my other cooldowns. If I stagger them out, I simply won't get enough time to use all my cooldowns before I have to step out again. You'll notice my stacks creeping up there. I'm on about 6, 7 at the moment. So when we get to about 8 or 9, I'm going to start thinking about getting out there. There is an ad being tanked and largely dealt with by the range, which appears on the way out. Just give it a smack, help the DPS there, step out of the ring, back in, give it another smack, back onto the boss. And from a lead point of view, that's pretty much what you do. With ranged, it's more of a priority to deal with that ad. Make sure that the ad is taken out of the ring just before it dies. It needs to die outside the ring really to try and reduce damage. Sometimes when the ad's about to die, you may decide to use a personal cooldown if you think you're low on health, or you've got too many stacks. But do keep an eye on those stacks. Usually when I'm on about 8, I start moving out there. I'm on 8, I'm just going to move out so that by the time I'm out I wouldn't have actually reached 10. I don't want to really reach 10. You start to take significantly more damage then. And at this point of the fight, it's really about maximising your DPS for a melee on the boss. For ranged, getting the ad down. Once the ad's down, again onto the boss. We need to get the boss down to 85% before the next phase will start. Okay, and then at this point we get these orbs appearing. They each go to one of 6 conduits. We need to DPS them down. Obviously you'll have assignments for those, you'll know which is yours. I use a bit of a targeting macro on these because with the boss in the way sometimes it can be difficult to click on them, or it is for me anyway. And we want to get those before they reach. If a single one of them reaches the conduits will appear, this phase will end, and the middle section of the floor will disappear. But each one we kill puts a debuff on the boss. The boss is taking more damage, so we want to cause as much damage as we can. So we want to kill as many of these conduits as we can. Otherwise it'll be very difficult to kill the boss in phase 3, the very final step. Okay, keep resetting your stacks every time you've killed them. Again, don't let your stacks get too high. You'll notice as these things are dying, we're getting a bit of damage. So if our stacks are too high, that can easily kill us, you see. Okay. At some point we'll just decide that the orbs start moving more quickly. At some point, at this point here, we decide we're not going to try and kill them. We're just going to go on, do as much damage on the boss, let them hit the conduits, and then as soon as they appear like that, we're going to move out of there. The middle section of the floor will disappear. If you don't move out quickly enough, you will fall down the hole. Again, on your assignments, take down these conduits as quickly as possible. We can't get past them. The sort of arcane lines you can see there will do a lot of damage to us. The opposite one has to be taken down as well as ours in order for that line to disappear so we can safely move out of it. Other little sort of zones there you can see will appear on the floor. Mobs will spawn out of them. Don't stand in those zones, and don't hit the mobs. We don't want them aggroing us just yet. They do cause a lot of damage. What we're going to aim to do here is wait until the middle section of the floor appears again. We're back into phase 1. Then we're going to take them to the boss and AoE them down. Let's get out of that zone there. Okay, so we're just waiting for tanks to gather them up, tank on each side. And there we go, into the boss again. Now, a word on tanks here. The tanks are swapping aggro. What happens with each ad, One tank will take the ad sort of to the edge of the outer ring, keep it in the inner ring until it's almost dead, then take it out, while the other tank's on the boss, and then they will swap over. Okay? And this time it's just rinse and repeat. We're trying to get the boss now down to 50%. Keep watching your stacks, keep moving out when they get into about 8 or 9. Trying to avoid getting them to 10. There we go, got to 9. Hit the mob on the way back in again. Back onto the boss. Okay, and we'll just keep doing this until we get to 50%, at which case the boss will go back into that phase 2 with the orbs. Total annihilation, they're telling me that I'm about to take a load of damage. If I was a bit worried, I would have used something to sort of reduce the damage taken. Okay. Okay, so we're coming to the end of this phase again now. The orbs are starting to appear again. It's the same as before. The priority is to kill a predetermined number of these orbs to stack up the debuffs on the boss. I'm just being a bit wary at the moment here. As you can see, my health's getting fairly low at times, so I'm trying to reset my stacks nice and early. Don't feel that the absolute priority is to get to the orb and then get out. If you can see that the orbs are going down in a reasonable amount of time, get out a little bit earlier if your health's low. Okay, because you're not the only one on them. There's 2 or 3 of you in the group. As long as you know that they will be killed before they reach that conduit, then that's fine. Finish them off with a finisher at the end. Okay, but don't let your stacks get too high. Right. Okay, at this point in the fight, we're just finishing off the second set of conduits. These are the final sets of conduits. What we're going to go into now is phase 3, where everyone will have to move to the inner ring once the floor appears again, because the outer ring will be dangerous and have what's called radiating energies, which cause a lot of damage. So we can't stay in those. We've got to go to the boss. Everyone's going to move to the boss anyway, so we can get these mobs stacked up and AoE them down. But this is now a burn phase. This is the final phase of the fight. We're going to take a lot of damage. The healers hopefully won't have had to waste a lot of mana on unnecessary damage up to this point. You've got to use all your cooldowns at this point. Maximum damage, maximum burst, maximum survivability. If you've got abilities that help you survive, use those. You still need to reset your stacks. You can see my stacks getting fairly high. I'm going to think about moving out in a second, but just do it quickly. Dip out, dip back in again. Alright, you can see my health's going really low. I don't want to be hanging about in there. A couple of people just died there. And you just got to do maximum DPS now until that boss dies.
Oh, it's written in the stars, a million miles away, a message to the man. Oh, the seasons come and go, but I will never change, and I'm on my way. Let's go.
Yeah, you're listening now. They say they ain't heard nothing like this in a while. That's why they play my song on so many different dials. Cause I got more hits than a disciplined child. So when they see me, everybody parack, parack. Man, I'm like a young gun for the black barack.